Welcome everyone to the second half of day one of our international webinar 2020, hosted by the Electronics and Communications Department of the University College of Engineering, Trivandrum, India. Before we move on to our next speaker, I would like to thank everyone present here. We all know the past couple of months has been a struggle for everyone around the world. We are glad to know that a lot of people are present here, and thank you. I'm Ritvik Nair, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all to the event once again. Thank you to all the organizing team members for making this happen, and thank you Aditi for taking over the first session. First, let me thank Dr. Robin Matthews, sir, for that wonderful class on mobile robotics. It was truly some great points that you pointed out. And well, let's move on to the second half of the day, and we have Dr. Vinod Pangracious, an associate professor at the American University, Dubai, UAE. He's a well-established electronics engineer who's made a mark of his work around the world, working with companies and esteemed organizations in Switzerland, California, Bengaluru. An avid follower on the design methodologies of nanoscale semiconductor integrated circuits, his research areas include 3D nano CAD, design automation techniques, and reconfigurable architectures. With several research papers and scientific articles published, he has been the assistant professor at the American University of Dubai for the past 6 years. We shall be taken to a world where Dr. Vinod will be talking in detail on the topic Technology and Innovation 2020, a decentralized machine learning platform, blockchain platform. Now, we hope everyone's ready for the talk. And with that, I hand the session over to you, sir. Welcome to the International Webinar 2020. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I hope you can see my presentation.
Yeah, it's visible, sir.
Okay. So thank you for the wonderful introduction. I'm sorry, I forgot your name. So today, sorry, I'm not doing well with my throat. However, I'll try my best to talk more about the presentation because it's a very exciting presentation. I'm working on this for a long time. A lot of students being working with me on this particular platform. I would like to share with you many interesting techniques and technologies, especially on innovation side, because I'm recently involved in setting up the Entrepreneurship Center at American University, Dubai. We recently started initiative to graduate students and graduate companies, instead of graduating students just opening them to the job market, why don't we graduate companies? And that's the initiative. And here I explain a little bit into those aspects of what it means to graduate a company. For example, startups. So let me give you an introduction to American University in Dubai. It's been 25 years. This university started in the 90s. It's a private university. We have many schools functioning inside our campus. What I show is basically the photograph of our campus in the heart of Dubai. We function in a part called Media City. There in Knowledge Village, everything is close by. Internet City, Media City, Knowledge Village are all the clusters that forms the heart of Dubai. And I'm part of the engineering School of Engineering. We have mainly 5 different departments: mechanical, civil, electrical, computer, and then computer science, and the minor department as well. So that's an introduction to our institute. I'm going to move to a presentation outlook. So here you see the overview of presentation. I'm probably dealing with many of those names which I have in this slide. Basically, I'm a fan of decentralized technologies, ubiquitous computing, machine learning, AI, and then innovation using blockchain platforms. So we'll see many of these aspects in detail in this presentation. And also I'm a fan of this 3D, so-called digitization, decentralization, and decarbonization. So many of the research which we are doing in American University of Dubai basically focus on these three aspects because we are using the advantages of digitization that happens all over the world today, especially in digital India, and focus on digitizing many aspects in the Indian subcontinent. UAE is one of the fastest growing digital economy in the world today. I'll give you some interesting aspect of this as well, and then we also talk about what exactly decentralization means, and then decarbonization, which is basically renewable energy technologies, how we link this together in one platform. And digital economy is one of the main aspects in the world today, especially in the Middle East. This is kind of a competitive world as far as digitization is concerned. UAE is one of the fastest growing digital economy. A lot of things being digitized, especially in the government sector and as well as in the private sector. And with this, the concept of datification. Datification is a concept that wherever you go, people gather data from you, whether you know or not. They're actually gathering a lot of information, and then these information is being used to create new businesses, especially in commercial sector, many different commercial sectors, in the real estate business or in retail business. A lot of times you actually provide a lot of information without knowing that you're actually participating in this process. Especially when you take an example of if you go into a textile shop or in a mall where you look at different dresses and you probably like few dresses and everything is captured in the camera there. And then at the end of the day, they look at this visual information and figure out which dress was attractive, how many times people looked at that dress, and how many people actually picked that dress or selected that. It's based on choice, and then the next day the mannequins in the shop probably wear the same dress. So that's a kind of a store manager is being done, the process of selection is being done by a software using this information that being collected from the customers. But everything is basically based on data. Data is a high price commodity today. A lot of data being collected in a day-to-day manner from our life with these digital technologies. When it comes to this, the foundation for these is basically simple technologies which you guys learn over time in your undergrad platform or in the graduation platform, which is basically networking, connectivity, computational power, and storage. And these are main technologies that are being used. And what I always tell to my undergrad students, learn these platforms very well, because this is going to be very useful as we grow up. And this gives you enough flexibility in deciding your future, where you want to move to industry, or you want to go into research platforms, or you want to start entrepreneurship and innovation. Whatever that you would like to do in your life, it gives us opportunity to start. And there are different ways we can use these technologies to build ideas on it. I'll give you a few directions in which you would like to think and move on. And there are a few platforms and technology which I would like to explain to you. And these are a few areas which currently we are working on. We call the ubiquitous computing. Basically, this is a very interesting platform, a growing platform. And what we see today, for example, I sit in front of a desktop or a laptop today. Maybe in a few years of time, these laptops and desktop may cease to exist. And then, there will be processors integrated in everything around you, and you just talk to them, interact with them, and they will have the ability to transform your messages into programs and respond to you according to what you need. So that's the kind of age which we are moving in. And this is a very interesting platform for young entrepreneurs and engineers that are coming up. Study more about ubiquitous computing, and that's something which is growing today. And ambient intelligence is basically something which you need to aware of, because where you are and what you do, what the environment, all this information should be gathered automatically to the system, and the system should respond to it. For example, if you are in a theater and your phone make noise, that's kind of annoying to other people. So if your phone is aware that you are inside a theater watching a movie, then it can take action according to it. So that's making your device more intelligent to understand where you are and what you want, what you do, and then it takes action according to it by itself without your intervention. And this also done basically in undergrad platform. We encourage students to develop cyber-physical platform, which is basically nothing but embedded systems which has sensors and actuators built in so that it can respond to the environment which is in. And there are many other technologies can be integrated in it, like machine learning, deep learning, blockchain, robotics. All this are going to be part of this. The basic technologies which embrace this is basically embedded systems, communication technologies, and network technologies. So these are basic platforms which you need to understand, which you need to learn more about it to grow into these main areas of research and development. And then the digital transformation is basically helping everybody around the world, and this requires a lot of innovation, and part of that we are promoting decentralization of technologies. So how far we reached in terms of digital transformation, especially since I live in the UAE, I talk more about UAE, but it also applicable to the Indian subcontinent, because with the start of Digital India, we are actually progressing a lot, especially Kerala. Has progressed a lot in terms of digital platforms. A lot of cell phone users today, and mostly every home probably have a laptop because of the start of online learning, or a smartphone. So all these are basically computing techniques, computing platforms which can be used for different applications. So basically technology is transforming the nature of work and reshaping the economy before our eyes. Digitization basically in the UAE is very, very competitive today. Almost everybody has a smartphone here, and a lot of, a majority of the population use social media and then aware of things happening in and around the world. And in and all, everybody is interested in leading a digitally enhanced life. They have a lot of things at home if it is completely automated. So people like a lot of autonomy in the system, where you can build autonomy by integrating systems in it, which can actually take decision based on what it is in and the situation around it. That's the system people like to have, and that's what we are actually trying to build in UAE. In that process, UAE government also helping us to to introduce innovation and entrepreneurship among the students in the campus. So we have an initiative from the government of Dubai to integrate entrepreneurship, innovation, and entrepreneurship as part of the curriculum, so that everybody learn what innovation means and what an entrepreneurship means. And when I teach innovation, I also categorize the innovation, different types of innovations we have. So basically, there are three kinds of innovation. There's sustaining innovation, then efficiency producing innovations, and disruptive innovations. So you could fit yourself in any of those categories. Basically, when we categorize the type of learning, how people learn, how students learn, I categorize into two main categories. Basically, hierarchical system of learning or distributed system of learning. In the hierarchical system, knowledge is built into modules, small modules, okay? And these modules are, you can learn these modules and then integrate these modules to form the final subject together. But in a distributed platform, knowledge is everywhere. It's in the internet. You go search and you'll find what you want. You have a free will to learn something which you like to learn. But in a hierarchical platform, this knowledge is fixed, because if you go in the university, you become part of a curriculum. You learn what is in the curriculum, and that's a kind of hierarchical learning. But in a distributed learning, you're not part of a curriculum. You're not part of a university. You're an individual. You have the right to learn what you want and where you want to learn, how you want to learn. You can decide that. And when I think about, I've done a lot of research on this particular aspect. So students who go into hierarchical platforms, most of them, like 90% of them, will come to the category 1 and 2. They probably into sustaining innovations, probably improve the existing products like efficiency producing innovations. For example, in sustaining innovation, which basically help establish organization to survive in face of change in their environment. A lot of applications are in agriculture, a lot of applications in the education, and then efficiency producing innovations. These are innovations like the product that's probably been there for some time, and then you basically take this product, improve it, and then provide additional features in it and bring it into a new form which more applicable to the society in the world. So that's kind of efficiency producing. But disruptive is a main category today. And the disruptive innovations come from students who would like to learn from the distributed platform. For example, online learning platforms. There are a lot of platforms, Harvard X, edX, Coursera. There are a lot of different platforms today gives you flexibility in learning. You can choose what you want to learn. When all come to this, today's world, especially in the time of fourth industrial revolution, what I learned over time is learning is very important. Improving your skill is very important, because when you go, for example, in Dubai, I know a lot of different industry in Dubai do not care much about the degree you have. Whether you are a BTech or an MTech, they don't care much about it. What they want to know is you have the right skill to do the job or not. If you have the right skill, you will get the job. And this is part of the fourth industrial revolution. So improving your skills, upskilling or learning a new skill, it's very important. And for this, you could choose any platform you want. So a lot of students who have the flexibility to come to the university and learn what they like to learn, they probably go into this disruptive innovation category, which means you are in a platform, you were actually using a platform for some time. For example, CD compact disc, once after the invention of digital storage, basically this became this was disrupted, right? Before that, we had tapes, right? We know the music was transferred using tapes, and that was also disrupted. So there are few technologies, it's new technologies probably that developed over time, will stop the flow of, the movement of one particular technology, one particular innovation. That becomes a disruptive innovation. Basically result in fundamental changes in the structure and nature of a whole sector. If you look at the processor development, which is basically my area of interest, in the 90s, when I graduated from Cochin University, Modern Engineering College, my undergrad, we had four terminals in one lab, and that's all we had. And that was designed using 486, which does not exist today. It means in some experimental form. After 486, the Pentium came, and then many other variants of that. And today you can see you have more than one processor in your hand, in your pen. Your phone has core, maybe 8 processors, 4 processors, 2 processors. Parallel computing is very common in these days. But at that time, when we were thinking about programming, we didn't even think about parallel computing. We just all sequential programming. We know that the program executes statement by statement, and that's the knowledge we had at that time. But today's programming language, people also think about parallel programming, process, threads, and all that information is very widely used today. So you guys have to figure out, when you progress in your curriculum, in your studies, which category you fit in, and what kind of innovations you could do, you can develop. Because I heard about dream career. Everybody has a right to to apply for this. And probably students should take initiative and come up with the innovation that needed today to sustain the society. And the need for innovation, basically, what we had the situation that was existing in Dubai maybe a year ago, and currently as well after this Corona time. Basically, COVID-19 taught us many lessons. We were preparing for Expo 2020, which was supposed to happen in October, but it's being postponed to 2021 now. So all this giving us more time and lessons to improve our life, maybe go for different kinds of innovation, because everything is a time to rethink whether the direction which our life is moving, or the direction which my study is moving, or whether the direction which my job is going on, is it right, or is it something direction change I need? So it's a time for you to rethink now. It accelerates comprehensive, mutually reinforcing innovation in digital technologies, because the platform is already there. Digitization is widely established platform. You could use that and build upon it. So what we did last year, we encouraged students to develop an ecosystem we call the digital ecosystem, which connects main technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain, which probably help them to accelerate the innovation and entrepreneurship programs. Because once you have access to these technologies, we have modules developed on it, we have programs developed on it. So you could take this program, so you can take this modules, you learn by yourself, and then develop something upon it. So you can develop an algorithm in machine learning for data analytics. And then also we taught them about decentralization, what exactly decentralization means when it comes to blockchain is a decentralized technology. So develop new technologies and standard using the concept of decentralization, which can be in energy sector, health, finance sector, or mobility sector. There's a growing platform in the finance sector which we teach today. It's fintech, financial technologies, which is using decentralization. Probably what you see like in the banks today, there are a lot of transaction happens which go through hands of the people, but probably all this will be automated over time, and the banks will be completely digitized after a few, because the banks which I work with in Dubai, there's only 2 offices in Dubai. Everything is digitized. Every transaction, all services is digitized, and I can do everything through my cell phone or my laptop. Okay, so there is a bit of security aspect in it. Decentralization probably is a solution or the answer to this security issues which we face today. A lot of new technologies being developed on decentralized platforms. So that gives you a kind of flexibility in learning these platforms and providing new solutions to it. But as far as I'm concerned, access to this platform is a main issue here, because as universities or institutes take initiative in providing access to these platforms, helping students to come to this platform, learn about it, learn more about it, and then try to build upon it. So that's the path which students should take in these days. So that's why in UAE, we actually, every university, there are many universities, there are over 30 universities in Dubai and in UAE, and all of them are very competitive in providing these platforms to students. And you can see every now and then there are hackathons and conference, and many things happens in Dubai. So students come from all over the world and experiment and present their platforms. So that's very competitive here. I think that's the way should way forward for us, because our world is also very competitive. So we need such platforms and innovation to come. So it comes to decentralization. What exactly decentralization means? Decentralization means distributed processing power. For example, everybody has a laptop at home or a desktop at home, and most of the time these desktops are not used. Probably they're used for to check the emails or just to run few games, and then the kids might use to study the online lessons. Otherwise, the desktop remains idle, right? So decentralized data processing power, algorithms and models. So very interesting line. Decentralized data. For example, we generate a lot of data at home. We have a lot of private data, public data uh, uh, in our home. And for example, if you're using energy meter, a digital energy meter that produces a large amount of information, and if you use power meter or your appliances are automated, then it also generates a lot of information. So you need, if you want to optimize the energy consumption in your home, you need to have a model to run the system. For example, when to run your wash machine, when to run your other systems. You can decide a time frame for each of them to optimize your energy consumption. Decentralized processing power. For example, you all have computers at home, and as I mentioned earlier, this most of the time these processing powers remains idle. Why don't we put them in a network? Because we already use internet and they are on a network. If somebody is able to coordinate these activities and use those computers decentralized inside the city or distributed inside a city or a small locality, and then run few algorithms to analyze the data, or any data for that matter. That could be a private data which is at home, somebody's home, or a public data that is accessible to everybody. And this way, you as a community, those developers can develop algorithms and models and send to the different locations inside the city. And they don't have to do anything because most of the time these are automated. Okay, these algorithms can run its own and can use the private data which they probably have at their home, and they don't have to publish the data. They can publish. They could probably publish the results that comes out of it, whether the algorithm functions well for them or it provides what they need and it meets their requirements or not. So this helps everybody. Because most of the time, getting the right data is difficult. Because data is a high-priced commodity. A lot of people protect the data because the private data needs to be protected. And we don't have the permission or right to use the private data on their home. So what we normally do in Dubai, we send these algorithms free to their homes, and they use the algorithms using their models, the data, they analyze it, and then if it meets the requirement, they send us the result that our algorithm is successful. This way, we have an advantage that our algorithms being tested by a different set of data, and it functions well. So now we can commercialize the algorithms. If you try to do this in your own campus with a limited set of data, you probably may not be able to test all possible test scenarios in it. So we can use the decentralized computing power, decentralized data, to test your algorithms, test your models. It's a community development. Okay, everybody is involved in it, and there's incentive for each of them. I'll come to that point later. So this is considered as utilization of untapped decentralized computational power. Okay, you don't have to have 10 or 20 computers inside your home, inside your company. You can try to connect with the people who have the computing power, and then run those algorithms or models what you have with their data, and collect the results. You don't have to know what data they use. You just collect the result, and they can the private owners may not provide the information about what kind of data they use, but they provide the information about the result. That probably you need to understand whether your algorithms functions or not. And we also have a case study, utilization of distributed clean energy resources, which I'll come to the case study. I will show it later. So this probably provides you a lot of flexibility, performance, efficiency, all that. We call it decentralized autonomous technology infrastructure. Basically, this is a platform where a lot of students, not just students, also freelance developers. There are a lot of developers in Dubai, a lot of industrial workers who actually know a lot about AI, machine learning. They develop applications. So they can use our platform, they can load the application, they can send the models, and then we will distribute these models into the distributed computing power and then test it, and then within 1 or 2 days, they probably get the information whether the the model or the algorithm functions or not. So this gives us a lot of flexibility to people or the developers to test and see whether the idea they have is functioning or not, or it's something new or innovation, whatever they have. Around 3 or 4 companies being developed on this particular platform in our campus. So when it comes to that, I would like to give you a brief introduction about these technologies. What exactly artificial intelligence, what are we talking about when it comes to artificial intelligence, machine learning, and blockchain? So what is artificial intelligence? Basically, when I teach my students, I take a very simple way of explaining it. It's basically how do we separate, for example, we all know how to write computer programs. A lot of students write beautiful, very dense code about applications. Okay, good. My grandpa clock, make a lot of noise, and it's not running on time actually. No, sorry about that. So you all know how to write programs, but probably most of you are experts in C and C++ or Python, Java, Julia. There are a lot of new programming platforms available in the world today. How do we differentiate a general purpose program and a program with AI, elements of AI? I didn't say full AI, but elements of AI in it. Okay. Basically, artificial intelligence, as I explained here, it's a term we call the smart technologies that are aware of and can learn from their environments, enabling them to subsequently take autonomous action, robotic process automation, machine learning, natural language processing, neural networks, and all incorporating AI in their operations. So it is a computer program, basically, and it interacts with the environment, collect information from the environment, and then take and respond to that. So it is adaptable. It can take decisions based on the situation in it or the environment around it. It can respond to those, and that's the kind of program. If you write a general purpose program, probably you write a code for certain applications, and it runs on and it gives you that kind of the results for that particular dedicated applications. But AI is the programs with AI is basically an evolving program. It can take decisions, respond to the environment. At the same time, it also has the ability to learn. Okay, it can learn over time certain patterns, certain cluster formats. It can learn, and then it can come to such patterns when it encounters same patterns again and again. So it understands that. There are many forms of learning, and that's basically the machine learning, where we have different types of learning. It's also a major part of artificial intelligence is part of machine learning. There are different way systems learn to behave. You can control the learning. You can depends on the type of environment it is. For example, you are in a location where you receive a lot of data, and these data, which is not particularly labeled, it comes in a very random manner. It is all mixed together. A lot of different information, probably coming from different senses. Okay, how do you analyze such situations? And what are you looking for? Are you looking for analyzing the data to get some sort of patterns or some sort of correlation? So this is basically what we call unsupervised learning. So basically, in this sort of learning, we call it learning from unlabeled data. Means the data that doesn't have any label, doesn't have any proper distinction. It all mixed together. But this set of algorithms that implemented in unsupervised learning. They can take the data, put it in certain sections, and see how the data fit in this particular pattern or that pattern. There's a cluster forming in this particular area, so that's how this behaves. All this can be extracted from this information in supervised learning, which basically runs on labeled data. There's a clearly distinct information about the data, and then it extract patterns from it. The third category we call the reinforcement learning, which is a very interesting concept. Is widely used today. When in autonomous vehicles, they use an extended part of reinforcement learning, which is basically the deep learning, where you have different agents in your system. So in your program, there is an agent, and the agent is like a child, a newborn baby in the beginning. As you run the program, you can train the agent to do certain things. It can do good things and bad things. So how do you tell the agent that this is good and this is bad? You give them incentives. So when the agent does a good thing, you give a positive incentive, and if the agent does a bad thing, you can give a negative incentive. So over time, the agent learns what is bad and what is good, and then you can reinforce your agent to do only the good things. When I say good and bad things,
Excuse me, sir. We can't hear you. I think your mic is on mute. No, you just have to unmute yourself.
oh, sorry, okay.
No, it's all right. Okay, you can continue.
Okay. So I was talking about reinforcement learning. So basically in the reinforcement learning, you can train your agent to do certain things, and you can bias your agent to do only those things and exclude the other aspect. For example, in autonomous driving, autonomous vehicles use reinforcement learning because you can train the vehicle to do certain things, especially the format in which you change the line, or you are in a highway, or you are in a freeway, how to behave. All this can be trained. So this particular learning is very important in those areas. And then comes the blockchain. Blockchain is a very simple thing to learn. So when I start thinking about blockchain, I go back to the lessons in my BTech, and I learned computer engineering. The first time when I learned about linked list, you all know probably linked list, right? How it is being implemented in a computer program, how you implement linked list, and using pointers in C, and at that time it was C, and we used C most of the time. The concept of pointer was very interesting, and using pointers you can create a linked list, and the memory locations are linked from one to the other, and then it goes in a straight line where you can create a chain of memory locations using pointers. Exactly the same concept. There is no difference, but there are some additional aspect into blockchain as well. And the blockchain is basically a distributed database. It is in the internet. You can call the block as a record, or a data block, or it's a piece of memory. Okay. Nowadays they use 1 MB as a memory to store information. So it is a block of memory. And then there are 2 blocks of memory, for example, 2 blocks being connected using a hash code. Okay, instead of the link that in a linked list it's a pointer, here it's a hash chain, and the hash chain is designed using a technology where you can create a 64-bit hash or 256-bit hash. It depends on how secure your system is, or the capability of the system is. And that makes this the blockchain as a immutable and resist modification and hacking or even distraction. But there are a lot of different aspects in it, how to introduce a block, how to remove a block. All this are part of the blockchain, and blockchain has different categories in it, and based on different categories, whether you read, write, permissions can also be controlled. I have a brief slide talk about that. The different categories. Basically, there are two categories, public and private, and inside public and private, there are two separate categories. One is permissionless, another is permissioned. Permissionless means a public blockchain where anyone can join, read, write. These are kind of a society platform or community development platforms where you can store information, everybody can join together and then build the network. But in a permissionless private, it's the same information, but there is an authority to authorize participants in it. Not everybody can join. Only authorized participants can join. That's also can also be used in community development or in data gathering information systems. In permissioned, public and permissioned, anyone can join, read, but only authorized people, known as participants, can write into it. And then we have private permissioned. It's also the category where the authorized people can join, read, and only authorized people have write abilities, so ability to write. So we can restrict people, their ability to make changes in it, using this these two categories: public, private, and permissioned and permissionless. There is a third category, which is called the hybrid blockchain, which basically take the characteristics of public and private, because as a person, as a homeowner, I have a lot of data in my home, but if I use a blockchain to do certain applications, I may have the right to protect my data. So I can discern what is private and what is public. So I can put the data I can place the data which is public to the public section, and I can protect the private data in my private section. So this is what actually we are trying to develop in Dubai, a hybrid blockchain, where we have both public and private characteristics, where you can protect your private data. At the same time, you can publish what information that is for the public in your public area. And this is being done at American University Dubai. This is a research which we are doing currently, and there is an application built on it, which I will go over it in the next section. But there are examples for private and public blockchain. For example, Bitcoin, Zero Cash, Ethereum, these are all examples of public blockchain. Hyperledger from IBM is basically an example of a private blockchain, which is used by students in these days and also industrial partners to develop applications. So this is a platform, as I mentioned earlier, decentralized autonomous machine learning platform, which is actually a platform available at AUD. Currently, it is only open to AUD students, but over time, we probably make it open to other students across the world as the platform becomes more user-friendly. There are a few additional application options in it. It has a hybrid blockchain technology. It's basically used as a networking platform. Anyone can develop high-quality machine learning algorithms, models, and applications, and then placed it in a platform, which could be sent to different parts in the part of the city where we have the decentralized computing power, where the model can be trained using public as well as privately held data by individuals, and then we collect the results from them. And what we normally do is for the participants in our network, the public participants, where they use their private data, we give them a token-based economic incentives to run our algorithms. And these token-based economic incentives are run using blockchain, so that they run business transactions and it automatically linked to their bank account. So when they work for us, the time is calculated and then calculates the amount which will be transferred to their account. Basically, the decentralized machine learning platform enable us to utilize the distributed privately held data processing power, which gives us the ability to run large amount of data with less amount of processing power in our center. Okay. It's also a solution to the power-hungry blockchain network. This blockchain network do a lot of transactions, processing power. It requires a huge processing power, and this is a methodology which you use to distribute that processing power into different locations in the city. And it's also a business model. Okay, so a lot of students use this as a platform to develop business model. We have a startup running on real estate platform. We have a startup running on solar energy platforms, and they all use this platform to develop their startup business out of it. And we have specific platforms, applications we call E-chain and T-chain. E-chain means energy chain, and T-chain is a transfer chain where students doing research on how energy can be transferred from home to home using blockchain platforms. And T-chain is basically an autonomous vehicle transfer platform. For example, if you are on a highway with only autonomous vehicles, how they coordinate each other, the traffic in the highway or in the freeway platforms. And that's the research students working on T-chain platforms. And the case study, energy chain, basically it's an energy management intelligent environment, what we call it is. It is a simple platform. The reason behind is because UAE actually ramping up their energy mix to 10%, which means by 2030 there will be a 25% of renewable energy and 75% fossil fuel, because UAE use fossil fuel widely to generate electricity. So they are trying to move away from fossil fuel and depend more on renewable these days. So their ambitious plan by 2030 to ramp this up to 25%. So a lot of research being conducted across UAE to support these activities. Basically what we call this clean energy self-sufficiency. We are developing homes with energy sources. It could be either solar or wind. We call the energy chain homes. Okay, and this is part of the decarbonization which I talked about in the beginning, because basically this provides a better society, better environment, a better place for everybody to live. And this is called a decentralized autonomous peer-to-peer application to trade clean energy. And let's see how we can do this. The way we develop this is in a very user-friendly manner. The homeowner need not spend much time on it. It's autonomously run in their home. So it's basically a microgrid, an intelligent microgrid that connects to the smart grid and then does the transaction. So when, for example, if you are a homeowner and you generate maybe 6 kilowatt per day or 10 kilowatt per day, which is a bit higher, and then if you use 10 kilowatt and if you use only 7 kilowatt a day, that's your maximum consumption. There is a 3 kilowatt energy which is available for free, and you can either give it to the energy provider, for example, the electricity KSEB in Kerala, or here we have the DIVA. But what we thought, instead of giving to the energy provider, why don't we sell it to a neighbor who is in need of energy? Because it's a clean energy and it is more cheaper than fossil fuel energy. And that's the motivation behind building a platform like this. So it is run using a blockchain platform, and we build a home which completely runs on solar energy, which generates around 11 kilowatt in total. Okay, but we are using only 6 kilowatt for this house, and the rest of the energy is being sold to our neighboring homes inside the city. And how do we do that? Is basically, I will show you. So, so here is the structure. We have around 16 homes in that area, 16 to I think around 20 homes are there. Out of that, around 10 probably have, currently around 10 of them has solar energy capacity. They generate, they're of different capacity. Not everybody generates the same capacity. It depends on the investment they do. And the homes without generation, okay, there are homes without any, they completely depend on the energy or the energy provider. They don't generate solar energy or clean energy. There are some homes generate less than what they need. For example, their maximum requirement is 6 kilowatt, but they probably generate 4 kilowatts. And the rest of the 2 kilowatts, if they are interested in using clean energy, they can get from their neighbor who generates more than what they need. So it's between home to home. They can transfer electricity from one home to the other using these platforms. So what happens when the transaction, how it happens is when, for example, by end of the day, if you based on your generation, because even if you have a capacity to generate 11 kilowatt based on the Dubai climate change and weather, you're probably not going to generate the complete capacity. But if you come close to that, and if you have around 2 kilowatts or 3 kilowatts of energy available for free for sale, this autonomous platform, the e-chain platform, places this for sale. And when it places it in for sale, this goes to the public. You know, they have a hybrid blockchain platform. The calculation all happens in the private blockchain platform. Once the calculation is done, and then say, okay, I have 2 kilowatts of energy free for sale, they will place it in the public blockchain platform, which is visible to everybody in the locality. When I see, for example, my neighbor has 2 kilowatts for sale, I can bid for it and I can get it. Okay, so my system is automatically, I can set my system automatically to bid for energy. I don't have to get involved in it. My system will automatically bid for it, and the transaction happens. When the transaction happens, this transaction is in sync with the DEVO transaction. So when I get my energy bill at the end of the month, I can see how much fossil fuel energy I used and how much clean energy I used and what is the difference in my bill. And then the incentives goes to the person who generates. I also get the incentive because I'm using clean energy, and my bill will be reduced by DEVO. At the same time, the person who generates electricity may get a zero bill from DEVO, and then additional incentives from the neighbors. So this is an advantage for everybody who is involved in this particular project. It currently runs in a small section of Dubai city. And this is basically a prototype which we developed in American University Dubai. You have 3 homes, one with a larger capacity, one with a smaller capacity, and one without any capacity for generation. They basically share the electricity among them. And then the transactions are automatically done, and every transaction is linked to the bank, so incentives will be directly sent to your bank account. So that's in connection with the fintech applications. And here I can show you a few examples of transactions about how much calculations that's done in the private section, and then the section that is being published in the public where the credit is available. Now you can bid for the power. So this is an application that built on this decentralized autonomous machine learning platform by our students, and this is being tested right now, and we will be presenting this in Expo 2020 as well. So these are a few additional applications our students developed to show a kind of a monitoring platform for homeowners to see the generation, how much they generate, how much they consume, and they can then if they want to set the application for sale and how they can do that. But apart from this, I would like to come to some part of the techniques that we use in E-chain and T-chain. This is all what we study in undergrad. There is nothing beyond the undergrad curriculum. You don't have to be a master student or a PhD to do that. Because we know embedded processors, we use it in everyday objects. You know, like we learn this very well, and we also learn communication capability, wired and wireless. Spontaneous networking and interaction, this is something I explained. This is what we actually focus here, spontaneous networking and interaction among the systems we use, and sensors and actuators actually. So these are few elements which you need to know. It's called the elements of e-chain. And most of the elements we use, we have built-in capacity to store data and then respond to that data. So they know, for example, context-sensitive behavior. They understand the environment around it, and they can take decision based on the data they receive. And it is responsive and proactive, communicate with environment, network with the smart object, gather data and store. All these are built-in information, built-in abilities that are being done with these devices. Spontaneous network is basically some new idea that inside a home you have a lot of different devices that probably interact among each other in a smart home for energy consumption, optimization, and then also data gathering and data collection. All this can be done using a smart gateway, and then this interact with other devices inside the home. And you don't have to use a wired network for all of them, or you don't have to have all of them in the network at the same time. You can decide when to have a network. So they all know each other and they all interact each other, but they don't all connect each other. This is done to save power, actually. Sometimes we don't need a person, so we can ask the person to keep quiet and sit at one place. And then if you need two other devices, okay, we can create a network and then we can interact each other. Not all of them have to be involved in all the time. So there's some sort of redundancy in some areas where we can remove them and then create spontaneous network among them. And then how we interact them, basically by message passing. We can use handshake signals to interact with them and then create a network. There are many different technologies available for that. This is something which we did in eChain because we are building a smart home where everything is run using solar energy, clean energy. And then inside the home, it is our responsibility to optimize the energy consumption which we have. We cannot waste energy. So that's why we are building a system which we call an intelligent system. They can interact each other, they can learn each other, they can talk to each other and see when to connect and when not to connect. So it's basically an intelligent environment. It's basically what we call, it could be home, office, hospitals, anywhere. We can establish these kind of systems. It requires sensors, actuators, and computers that network with each other and the internet. The components are controlled by the intelligent agent and the software that knows the preference of the occupant and it tailors the environment to suit them. In future, basically, these kind of systems probably required in many parts of the world, especially in a growing society. This is probably a good solution to keep track of every action and every requirements of human life. And in the last slide, I would like to show my students. You can see my students in front of the home which we did. This is basically a home that runs completely on solar, and we are also using eChain implemented inside this house to talk to the neighboring houses whether they need of energy, or we to basically test the platform. So that's all about it. It's digital information era. It's an opportunity for everybody. It's a digital world. We basically use these three terms very often. It's digitization, decentralization, and decarbonization. We can build a better world with these technologies and digitally enhance everybody's life. And thank you all for listening to me. If you have any questions, please go ahead.
Well, that was an exceptional class, sir. Thank you, sir, for that. And I'm sure everyone in the webinar was captivated by your words. An astonishing work so far. So I guess we can move on to questions now. So if anyone's got any queries or questions regarding sir's class, do unmute yourself, or you can just put it down in the comments box.
You're all undergrad students, or we also have master students here?
We have a mix of audience here. It's a lot of scholars here, undergrad, postgrad.
Mm-hmm. Okay. If you don't ask questions, then I will ask questions.
So there's a question in the comments box.
Okay.
Did you see it? Or
Filtering spams in emails. Yes, yes, I saw it. So machine learning is basically, a platform where you can train the system about few words. For example, we did something similar to that. One of my students developed an algorithm which basically take the top 100 Twitter accounts, and then it goes through the tweets of those people, and then extract some information from the tweets they probably publish. For example, you can understand their political inclination, or based on the words. For example, you can select 10 words or 20 words, and then how many times they tweet those words, and you can create clusters of them. Okay, you can create a cluster. Okay, this is this particular group of Twitter accounts basically use this words 100 times, or this particular cluster use this words maybe 200 times. So you can differentiate things from it. So machine learning is basically a platform where you can segregate information and create patterns of it, and then you can take a decision, okay, not to have them, or you like them or not. So you could probably decide on that. Spams are it's not very easy to check spam emails, because we all have this the spam folder, right? Sometimes the email which is of interest also goes there, because they detect accidentally detect as a spam. So basically, it depends on how you train your system, and what are the different words you use there, what are the different phrases you use there, to teach your engine to detect the spam, or detect what you're actually looking for. It is possible. It's done. They they don't use machine learning as of now. They just use some word count, word and phrase catch system. But machine learning, machine learning can also be used here, because there are systems which evolves over time. So you could create an algorithm, place it in the internet, and then it basically learns all the time, and it updates itself based on the new knowledge. So keep updating. Some machine learning algorithms are you can train the algorithm, and then you see if it works well, you can lock it and then put it in an application space, so that it works exactly how it is being trained, and it may not learn any further. But in some applications, it's a kind of open-ended application. You can place it to evolve continuously. So it is a continuous learning algorithm. In a sense, you could also have a control on it, okay, while how it learns, as you are the owner of the system, and the program will update itself with the new information. Because spammers, they use different methods to make themselves relevant, and the online learning platforms should be able to catch these phrases. Yes, it is possible. I can send you a few exercises, a few examples about this Twitter exercise which my students developed. It's in GitHub. I can probably send you the link to download these algorithms, and you can run in yours. Basically developed using Python. So if you have little knowledge about Python, probably you should be able to catch up with us.
All right, so I guess that's it for the questions. And moving on to the last part of the webinar, I'd like to thank and take this opportunity to thank everyone present here on the webinar yet again. It's been an honor, and it's been an honor to give me an ask to do the vote of thanks for the day, and I think a strong group of webinar organizing committee for this, because an event of the scale could not have been done without the working struggle of each and every member of my team. They've been working for the past 1 month. So thank you everyone for being a supportive team. And firstly, I just want to thank everyone for being here and taking their time out of this during a really sad pandemic month. Thank you. And I just want to see everyone for the day 2 as well for the next international webinar marathon week. So have a good evening, everyone, and take care. Thank you.
You could reach me at okay, so I will give you my email ID.
Yeah.
Pangracious. Oh, sorry, my computer. Let me type again. vpangracious@aud.edu. Or you can contact Simi. Simi knows my mail ID.
Yeah, we can share the contact information through the WhatsApp details. Well, thank you very much, sir. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.